Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Outside, where the estate shape thought find out and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest from social work to solid science. We'll talk about home, chains, and belonging, none other than Miss Julie Clark.
Hi, Daniel. How are
Well,
you?
well, I'm fabulous, fabulous, Miss Julie, and welcome on an Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
So my name is Julie Clark. I am a mom of two. My previous career was as a social worker for 15 years with the Yukon government. I moved over to real estate about 4 years ago. Um, just kind of started to not feel like social work in the government was the right path for me anymore. I think I did my time and was looking for a bit of a change, and the world brought me to social or to real estate. So
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Julie. And today let's talk about burnout, boundaries, and buying properties, the truth behind the sale. So tell us, Miss Julie. Real estate is often portrayed as a career of freedom and flexibility, yet it's a rife without burnout or with burnout. What is the core or contradiction between a fantasy and grueling reality that leads to this exhaustion?
I think the biggest thing that people don't understand, and I certainly didn't when I first started as well. I mean, I was leaving government to kind of get away from that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday work. It didn't work very well for my young family, my partner who was self employed, and then, you know, doing, kid pickups and that kind of stuff. I didn't have enough holidays to even do what I needed. So I needed to change into something that was more flexible, and that I could have a bit more control over my schedule. And so I went into real estate for a number of reasons. That was certainly one of the factors. But what I didn't understand was the amount of hours you would be working. So and the length. So I'm on call pretty much 24/7 for clients and for people to reach out to me. If they want it, if they looking to buy, if they're looking to sell, people don't think to not message at, 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night. And we're doing showings at 8 o'clock in the morning. And um, weekends, holidays, you're always on call. And because it's all commission based, like, especially when you're getting started, you don't say no to anything because you have to get your name out there, and every deal counts. So there is some flexibility once you get to a certain level, and you can, um, you know, you've learned how to do that a bit more. But when you're first starting out, that 24/7, um, evenings, weekends, holidays schedule is very, very difficult to adjust to, and the need to say yes to almost everything that comes your way.
Yes, you always say yes, 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 for sure.
Yeah.
what are what are the early subtle warning signs of a burnout for real estate agents that are often mistaken for just being busy or hustling?
That's a good question. I think that, I mean, burnout is such a broad term, and I think that it manifests differently in everybody. I mean, I certainly saw it a lot in social work, and social workers were very sensitive to identifying that. It's not the same in real estate. Like, you said the word hustle, um, and that's such an important piece of this job. And I think because people come from so many different backgrounds, like I said, I come from government. There's other people that have come from that had already been in private industries. There'd been stay-at-home family parents that decided to start it as a part-time career, and everybody's coming from very different ways. So it manifests very differently for each person. And I think the most common way that I have seen it um, is probably failing to respond. So when people are starting um, to get a bit overwhelmed, leading towards possible burnout, I think that people start to avoid the phone, or they're not responding as quickly as they should have. And I don't know what that really is. That maybe it's, trying to some kind of self-preservation, to be like, what, I'm overwhelmed and I can't do anymore, so I'm just not going to take the phone calls. I'm not really sure what that looks like, but um, no, no, sorry. Um,
Yeah.
and so for me, the like, I I'm still still relatively new in the game, and I did experience true burnout with social work. And so for me, I'm not there yet with this job. Like I've been able to set some boundaries, with clients. And like, I've realized that the reason that I one of the reasons I needed to leave government was because of the impact it was having on my family. And so I've now gotten to a position in real estate where um, I'm reprioritizing that and the kids. And if I'm at a hockey game, I'm watching the hockey game. I can be not available for an hour to make that happen, and the deals that need to happen are still going to happen. So um yeah, does that sort of answer it, I think?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So, Miss Julie, how does a 100% commission-based fees or famine nature of business directly fuel both anxiety and the inability to set boundaries?
Absolutely. I mean, it has to. My partner is also self-employed. Like, he's a builder. So when he's in the process of building houses, he doesn't have an income until we sell those places. And then unless I have a deal closing, we're not getting a paycheck. So certainly, like, it feeds into the anxieties and the stresses. Um, and when I had first started, I worried about that a lot, but we went into this knowing that kind of stuff, and I was very fortunate that we were able, we have some savings, and we have a cushion if we need to. If we didn't, though, that would be hugely stressful, and the hustle and the game the would need to increase somehow. Um, Luckily, the market in the Yukon is quite busy, and if you want to work, there is work. So there are opportunities to do some property management if somebody wanted to, or to do some side work. I'm a full time realtor, and I dedicate my time solely to this profession. So we've been able to make that work. But yes, absolutely. There's times when you don't have a deal closing for a couple weeks or something, and you think about where that's coming from next. But so far for us, we've been pretty fortunate, and the work
That's
has managed.
awesome. That awesome, Miss Julie. When your self-worth becomes tied to your sales volume, what happens to mental health during a show market or when deals falls apart?
Um, that's another one. I think it's inevitable that you're going to start, and I think it's only healthy to um, question anything that happens. So, I mean, if you have a deal that falls apart, I mean, it's super important as a professional and somebody who wants to continue to grow their business, that you evaluate that. And does it impact self worth? That might be a bit intense, and maybe it does for some people. I mean, I've certainly questioned the work that I've done. I've taken things to my brokers and my coworkers to say, like, where did I go wrong and what can I do differently, and all of those kinds of things. And that's part of learning. I mean, like I said, it's only been 4 years for me in this job, and I am still. I mean, every deal you're learning something new, because you're working with people. And in the Yukon, especially, we also have very unique properties and things that you need to learn about housing every single time.
Mm,
So, um, yeah, I think that I don't know. I don't know if I'd go so far as to just get
yeah.
into the self worth piece of it. I think that
Mhm.
you have to go into this kind of job knowing that you are your business, and you have to learn to grow. And if you're not, then yeah, you're going to be sitting back and maybe not moving forward as quickly as somebody would want to, maybe.
Yes, definitely. So, Miss Julie, can you share an example of a time when saying no to a client or a deal What's the best long term decision you made for your business and your health?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like so my when I originally moved to the Yukon, I lived in Dawson City. Um, which is about 6 hours north of here. It's not an area that's well populated. Sorry, it wasn't being serviced by a full time agent for the last little while. And because of my connections in Dawson, I'd been asked to do some work up there, which is a big investment. And as far as time and energy, properties are very, very different up there. You're often running into things about permitting and just very unique, time consuming um, pieces on the property. And they're not usually like a higher the prices aren't as high up there, so commissions are a little bit lower, but usually a lot more work. So I had a really hard time because um, there was one full-time agent up there. She was retiring, so there wasn't a lot of service that was being provided, but people still wanted support. And so I did set a boundary for about a year where I wasn't doing a lot of work up in Dawson City. It was taking way too much time from my family, and the travel up there was a lot. And it wasn't benefiting the cost. It wasn't benefiting me as far as money wise. Um, and so I said no. And for a little while, um, I've recently, I've been asked again a few times this year to do some more work up in there. Um, and there's a need for a social or sorry not a, social, a real estate agent up there. So I've partnered with another person who's connected to Dawson City. She also lives here and works here, but had been there before. So her and I have actually partnered to provide services to Dawson City so that we can both provide a level of service that they deserve to have, but it isn't just solely falling on one of us to have to, or on an individual to problem solve the myriad of difficulties that come up with the properties up there. So that was really, really great because I really felt a want to provide services, but I really recognized that it just wasn't something that I could do as well as having a business down in Whitehorse here. So that solution worked out really, really well, and we're providing some great services up there now, and people that need the support are getting it, and so I'm very happy to be doing that. And it also keeps my connection to Dawson City, which I appreciate because it is my original home here.
Mm. So,
Mhm.
Miss Julie, what's the biggest boundary challenge actually with clients, or is it with our own internal drive to always be on? How do you
Mhm.
turn off those agent brain?
I don't know if I've figured that out yet, to be honest. Like I'm still working on that one. I love the idea of, like keeping Sundays for, family and, like not doing, showings and stuff on Sundays. But I mean, you have people that come into town or come in just on the weekend and that's the only time you have. And so it's just not realistic. I know that there's certainly some agents that have made that work for them. They've a lot of them have been around a lot longer. They have these long time, clients and they'll wait for them. But I don't know if I've really figured that one out yet. I think, there's been some great things that I've seen. Like people are like, I just don't answer my phone after 7 p.m. And, that could work for some people. I haven't got there yet. Um, I don't know if I've seen very many people in the industry here that have really good boundaries yet. I think it's kind of something that we're all struggling with. I have partnered with somebody in my office so that when either one of us goes out of town, then we have somebody here on the ground to provide service to the people to our clients. Um, and we each leave town probably twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year. So that's been really, really helpful. I can luckily, with internet and texting and stuff, we can stay in touch with the buyers and stuff that we need to. But to have somebody back here that's supporting that works similarly to me, and that I can trust with my clients has been very, very helpful. So I am able to leave and disconnect slightly, but I still always have my phone and internet available. So still something I'm working on, but yeah, anyway.
Mhm. So, what does the healthy of boarding process look like at the end of the workday or on day off, especially when you work from home?
Um, sorry, so can you say that one again?
Yes. What does a healthy offboarding process look like at the end of work day on a day off, especially you work from home?
Um, I don't know if I've done any offboarding, to be honest. Like it's, like I come home, I have young kids. You know, it's something, it's an area that I certainly need to do some more work on. But I think, the the small things are pretty consistent here. So, like when we're having supper, there's no phones at the table. Mine does not come on unless we're in the middle of a negotiation for a property. So there are some exceptions, which isn't ideal, but dinner times are pretty sacred. So I really appreciate that. Same with putting my kids to bed. Like I'm fully available for that. So it's kind of sporadic. I don't have like long chunks that I have been able to manage to carve out, but there's these very key important pieces to me. And so I think like that has been very helpful because I wasn't doing that the first year that I was doing this that I started this career. So um, just carving out little chunks and making those very special and important um, have been helpful for me in trying to separate work and home. I think that working at home um, makes it even more difficult, to be honest. Like, because like before when I was in government, like I'd go to work, I'd have my office, and then I'd come home, and so you just naturally had those definitions. This is still one that's under practice, but I am adding in just extra times that I'm not available for everybody, and that I've really appreciated those, and I think that's been really helpful for me and the family.
Miss Julie, what will be your short term and long term goals?
Short term and longer. Well, I mean, hmm, short term, I need to be better at having my taxes and everything under order so that I don't stress about that every single year. So every year I try to get a little bit better. I guess it's just systems. Short term, I just want to find a better system um, for financing because I'm commission based. Every receipt matters in this job. And I need to account for everything, which again is very new for me. Before, like when you're government, you get your paycheck every 2 weeks, and then you do your taxes with your T4s, and it's totally fine. This is very, very different for me, and causes a lot of stress. I have piles of receipts everywhere that need to be organized regularly. Um, and then in the beginning of the year, you'll see them like nice and organized from January, February, March, and then in April, it just kind of all falls apart. So I'm hoping to have a better system. That's my short-term goals, is to find a system to start me out better next year. So in my next month, I'm hoping to be able to do that, and that will reduce some of the stress that I have throughout the year. Long-term goals, boundaries. I mean, you've talked about it already here. You've asked about those. That's an ongoing practice and an ongoing goal. I really haven't seen somebody that's doing it really, really well yet. I've been able to network with some agents down in BC and Alberta. Um, excuse me. And and it seems to be kind of a consistent challenge for real estate agents. So I think I'm just going to keep on chatting and maybe see if there's some other systems I can bring into play to kind of claw back a bit of time for me, and for my kids, so that I can be a bit more present. So that's an ongoing long-term goal, I think, is to just try and be better at finding a balance, because I hope to be in this for the long term. I mean, I did 15 years at government, and I mean, I'd love to do that again here and have that type of a career. But it's not one that a lot of people last long term in. So I think it's a pretty important to find a balance relatively quickly. Um, and I've been doing little small pieces, but I think that needs to escalate a little bit quicker.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Julie, and looking forward for more success. And
Mhm.
what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Hmm. Like me in like real estate.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
I really, really encourage people to talk to different agencies and different agents prior to committing to even doing the course. I think there's a lot of misinformation and a misunderstanding about what this looks like. And I think that People, like, I've already seen it in the few years that I've been here. People come in and they're like, okay, like, my sister's going to list her house with me and I'm going to be this thing and I'm going to do these great things. And then they realize there's actually a lot of work that has to go into it behind the scenes, and your networking, and just so many different pieces of it that you don't read about in a book anywhere. You do the course and then you never touch that again. And there's just really there's so many areas of knowledge that are required that people underestimate in order to be successful at this. So I think it's really, really important to talk to different agents and just see what they have to say, so that, because one of them will likely, you likely connect with one of them, and just have those honest conversations before you even start. I think it's an amazing career. I'm really, really excited that I've gotten into it. I'm with Coldwell Banker, and I'm super thrilled that I have them. And it's a great team there. And I think that all of those things make a big difference. But yeah, I think that I didn't come in fully eyes wide open, and I could have done a bit better, right? Especially with the work-life balance, had I had those conversations ahead of time. So that would have been really helpful.
Well, thank you for that advice, Miss Julie. And tell us, how does shifting your identity from a salesperson to a social worker? What's the big change about approach time, money, and boundaries?
So it's actually interesting to me because it wasn't as difficult, or as it wasn't as different as I thought. A lot of the skills that I had from social work were transferable to real estate. Um, Very surprisingly. And now that I look back, I shouldn't have been so surprised. But um, when when I was working as a social worker, like, my job was to support people in during transition. So I worked primarily in justice. So people coming out of the jails and into the communities, where was who I was working with primarily. Um, and in real estate, like, it's all transitions. So it's people that are, coming together as a couple, separating as a couple, relocating to the territory, leaving the territory, downsizing, upsizing, all the things that they're big life transitions. Um, and so many of the skills that I learned in social work throughout my career have been incredibly helpful here. Like I said before, like, the boundaries at social work were a little bit easier because the hours were 9 to 5. But because I live in a small community, I'd see clients out in the neighborhood regularly. And I just have a standard speech, like, won't, I won't greet anybody because everybody knew what my job was. And then people would wonder how we knew each other and those types of things. So it was very prescribed in how I could set boundaries and people's expectations of me as a social worker. Um, the skills, like I said, were transferable to real estate, but the boundaries were not. So that people have a very high expectation of real estate agents, and that we are available constantly. And that has been okay for me for some part. Um, no, sorry. Um, so we, sorry, just one second.
No worries.
Um, so we, yeah, so the boundary piece of it hasn't been transferable, and it is something that I need to learn. And I'm sorry, I missed the other part that you had
No
asked.
worries at all. So, Ms. Julie, to wrap up our discussion for today, if you could boil it down, what is the one fundamental truth about balancing successful career in property sales with healthy, fulfilling life?
Hmm. I would say that it is most important to recognize that this is just a job. It does become all consuming. It can very easily become all consuming. And the nature of the job and being available the way that we are, um, it very quickly can um, interrupt or enmesh itself in other areas of your life. So your families, your friends, like, if you're going out for dinner with your friends and you're, constantly on your phone because that's how you're working and those types of things, those people, like, you're allowed to just disconnect for a half hour or 45 minutes or something so that you can have a conversation with people. We see it all the time in real estate where, like, intimate relationships are impacted by real estate agents work schedule and constantly being available for clients and then not being as available for families. So um, I would just really think about that ahead before getting into it and have some sort of boundary set up immediately, because I think it's hard once you've been fully available to then start to claw it back a little bit. But again, there's a balance with being always saying yes and being a commission based. So that's where I think those conversations with agents that have been around for a long time would be very helpful. Like, I mean, I've spoken to some since I've started, they've been doing this for 20 plus years. And every single one of them says that, like, they wish that they would have had better boundaries when they were young, when their kids were younger, or, that they've had relationships that have ended because of the work that they've done. So, um, in the end, it is a job. It is not, it's not, it doesn't need to be your whole life. There's other pieces that are important, and I think people need to be reminded of that and remember that, because the risk is pretty high.
Miss Jilly Clark, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
So one thing that I'm really excited about is education.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the opportunity to educate people, and I don't know everything. When you're buying a house, it's a massive investment, and there's so many things to know, like heat systems, insulation, windows, and all of the different components, plumbing, electrical. And so my coworker and I, Sarah Skelton, we are hosting our second annual HomeWise Expo, which will be on February 1st at Mount Mac. And so what we do there is we bring together trusted tradespeople, anybody that's connected to homes in general. So we've got landscapers, we've got lawyers, we've got mortgage brokers, plumbers, electricians, roofers, kind of hoping to have everybody to help you run a house, so that people can come and ask questions and meet people to connect with that offer services to help maintain the biggest investment that people make in their life. And we provide opportunities to have conversations about, how do you maintain a home? We have resources available, the things that you're supposed to be doing, every 3 months and 6 months and annually. So it's really an opportunity for Sarah and I to meet but recent home buyers or soon to be, or people that have been around for a long time, and just talk about like how you maintain and take care of that investment. And when we're not in an active deal, and it just makes it we can answer a lot more general questions and connect people with the right supports. So we're really passionate about that, and we'd like to see everybody out there on February 1st, and for the second annual HomeWise Expo.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Julie Clark, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering sales will rise. So, Miss Julie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with you.
What can people